I love lamb. Maybe it's the Aussie in me. I mean, we literally have ads for lamb. Not brands of lamb, just lamb.
Are we smelling the lamb?
Yes, Prime Minister, the barbecue is lit.
Today we're trying our first lamb recipe from the essentials of classic Italian cooking. I'm not skilled in the kitchen, but I am enthusiastic, even though Marcella's telling us to cook the lamb in vinegar. This early June morn was -1 degrees, and I thought what better a day to make lamb stew with vinegar and French beans. And just to add some extra carby comfort, we're gonna make sliced potatoes baked with porcini and fresh mushrooms, Riviera style. So let's get started. Mum and Dad bought me a cookbook stand. First we need 1.35 kilos of lamb shoulder with the bone in. Now the smallest that I could find was about 1.5 kilos, but it's got all of this stamping on it. I reckon I can shave that off and we'll get it down just a bit. I'm sure I'm doing everything wrong here. Any butcher who ever watches this is probably cringing pretty hard right now. Well, that made all difference, but this is what we've got to work with. Now we're cutting it into 5cm cubes, but somehow bone in. This is gonna be an adventure. There's the bone as expected. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to deal with this. I think improvisation time, I'm gonna cut around it and then I'll chuck the bone in as well. It's another bloody bone. I mustn't be interpreting this right. Okay, so this escalated pretty quickly from cubes of lamb to lamb of all shapes and sizes. But we have our meat, we have our bones, and with enthusiasm we shall soldier on. 50 grams of my old nemesis, chopped onion. 68 grams, good enough. Now we get 450 grams of French beans. We call them green beans in Australia. I wish I read the scales before I opened the second bag. That's 450 grams. Cut off the ends. That was an ordeal. Now we wash them, drain, and set aside. We need 4 tablespoons of olive oil. Now we're going to brown the meat over a medium-high heat. Now we don't want to crowd the pan, otherwise the meat will steam. Already I think it was a poor choice to put the book here. Okay, that's looking decently brown. I think time to flip. Okay, now we're going to set those aside on a plate and do the next batch. Now look, she must have specified lamb shoulder with the bone in for a reason, so I think I'm going to brown the bones too, just in case. Now we put in our onions. Oh, we're waiting for these to become a pale gold colour. I suppose you'd call that a pale gold colour. It's kind of hard to see through the bubbles. But now we add salt, pepper, and a ½ cup of good wine vinegar. Now we deglaze with that for 30 seconds. Then we add the meat back in, then the beans, give it a toss. Now just in case, we'll chuck the bones on top. And we bring down to a very low simmer, and then we put the lid on just slightly askew. And it stays like that for 1.5 hours. And as always when you're browning meat, remember to wipe down your wall. To start our side dish, first we need to reconstitute 25 grams of porcini mushrooms in barely warm water. And we leave that going for ½ an hour. Now we're weighing out 225 grams of fresh mushrooms. Give them a wash. Drain. And we'll leave those to dry in a tea towel. I need 450 grams of small new potatoes. Now she says if these are particularly new, we should just be able to rub the skin off. I've never heard of a potato that you could rub the skin off, but peeling works just fine. And now we cut them into 6mm slices. That's very specific. Those are our very approximately 6mm thin slices. We chop the ends off the stems, and we're slicing them the same thickness as the potato. Again, very approximately 6mm. Now we very finely chop 2 tablespoons worth of garlic. You know, garlic tastes gorgeous, but it really makes you work for it. See, if I'm chopping this very finely, why can't I just use a garlic press? I'm sure there's some very logical answer. Maybe someone tell me in the comments. Yeah, look, I think that's about as fine as she's getting. Now those porcini mushrooms will have finished their soak by now, and now we cook them until all the liquid boils away. I feel like I should have been doing other stuff while I waited for this. You know, our stew's got about 40 minutes to go. Let's check on that. Oh. Ooh, the vinegar's turned almost a little sweet. It doesn't quite feel like a stew though. It's more like a braise. Oh, that's enough of a cheeky peek. Now the liquid's nearly evaporated in the mushrooms. It's gone all thick and sticky. I'm kind of tempted to take it off at this point, just so there's that little bit of mushroom stock in the side dish. Okay, we're gonna do that. So we've got our baking dish, mushrooms and potato, garlic, outrageously 6 tablespoons of olive oil, chop up some fresh parsley. I really need sharper knives. And we need about 2 tablespoons worth. Oh, and the porcini. Some pepper, but interestingly not salt yet. Toss it all together, and level it out with the back of a spoon. Then half an hour before your stew's ready, pop it into the oven at 200 degrees. That you preheated. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that. Once we hit the 15-minute mark, we open it up, add some salt, and give it all a good toss. Flatten it back down and in for another 15 minutes. The stew's nearly ready and it's supposed to have just its natural cooking juices left. There's maybe still a little too much liquid in there. Now the meat's supposed to be tender enough to pierce easily with a fork. It's nearly there, but it's still just a little bit on the firm side. I think I might have been a little too conservative with the heat. I'm gonna turn it up just a little bit and leave it on for a bit longer than the hour and a half. It's been another 15 minutes and time to take our potato and mushrooms out. Oh, that's looking beautiful. That is our lamb stew with vinegar and French beans, and our sliced potatoes baked with porcini and fresh mushrooms Riviera style. Okay, Millie, new house rule. Don't start stews at 8 p.m, okay?
Good rule. Potatoes look really good.
Now, this is what you've been smelling for the last few hours.
It smells lammy. I'm really hungry.
Well, it was a little touch and go for a moment, but I think I've actually got it pretty tender.
That just fell apart in my mouth.
And there's a tanginess to it as well from the vinegar. I was a bit worried that vinegar was going overboard, but it's just been absorbed by the meat and kind of seasoned it in a way.
Seasoning's a good way to put it. The beans are still kind of a bit crunchy.
I was a bit worried that they were just going to go mushy. The beans have actually retained a little bit of bite. It's quite satisfying and I wouldn't have expected that. Shall we try this potato?
Potatoes are winning.
I think I was a little generous with the garlic, but it is welcome.
Generous with the garlic.
The porcini mushrooms, they bring an earthiness, but it's not a strong flavour. It's just a nice bit of umami on the side.
I like getting a little bit of potato on a piece of lamb.
The only thing missing for me is just a little bit of acid. I think paired with the stew, that's where it really works. Well, Millie, it's far too late at night for us to be having dinner, but this is fantastic. Should I make this again?
Absolutely.
Well, there you have it, folks. It passes the housemate test, even at, whoa. Well, unfortunately, I still don't have a good sign-off for these. So, Millie, what's your suggestion this week?
Garlic and acid for the soul.
Garlic and acid for the... If you're a fan of a little bit of tang, I definitely recommend the stew, and this was such an easy side dish. I think we're gonna finish this and go promptly to our beds. But thanks for joining.